Manchester United beat Brighton 2-0. Cristiano Ronaldo is back scoring again. The mini drought is over. Don, is the glass half full again at Old Trafford?
I think it's okay to say, Gab, no one's got an idea. No one's got a clue what is going on at Man United in terms of how do you get a handle on their performances. How can they... If you go back to last season, that was a bit of a riddle where they kept going behind in games, especially away from home, and winning. So the confidence was there. There was sort of that mini little DNA. Oh, we've been here before, we can do it. Now their DNA is, we'll score a goal, we'll bottle it, teams will score against us, and we've got no idea.
But it didn't happen in this game.
No, it didn't happen in this game, but you know, Man United should be beating Brighton. Brighton are a good side. Graham Potter's a good manager, but this is Man United at Old Trafford.
And I think Brighton have been a bit stale of late.
Yeah,
so
you would have fancied. I mean,
3 points, but they're top 4.
Right, Antonio Conte giving an interview to Sky Italia, very negative.
Yeah, he seemed to complain about the January transfer. He said this bizarro thing where he's like, well, we're down numerically. It's not easy when, you lose 4 players in January and only bring 2 players in. And he says 4 important players for us. So the 4 players who left in January and were Gio Lo Celso.
Didn't play.
Brian Hill. Didn't start
play.
a single game. Ndombele and Dele Alli, right?
Hardly played.
And you brought in Bentancur and Kulusevski. Now, leaving aside the fact that your mate, Fabio Paratici, is the director of football, and presumably you okayed these moves, right? Because it's not like people were beating down a door. It's not like, Dele Alli was saying, I must leave now, and I don't get why you would say that. Sure, you're down in numbers, but if you want to give explanations, mention the individual mistakes, mention the fact that Eric Dyer, who's actually pretty important for Spurs defensively, isn't there. There's a lot of other things. I think what he's doing is, this isn't a rerun of the past, because he's not stupid. He knows that Daniel Levy's not going to start signing big checks in the middle of the season, right? He's managing expectations. When he said there's a 1% chance of them making the Champions League, and he said this again before, and he says, well, you need experience, blah, blah, blah. I think he's saying it so that they look better when they get in the top 4. He's not saying this to be manipulative of the ownership.
You don't think there's an ulterior motive? Maybe he's trying to buy a little bit of time for a team that's lost 3 on the spin. They've got Man City at the weekend. Do you not think he's getting his ducks in a row?
He is in terms of managing expectations.
Is he going to walk in the summer?
No, I don't think. No, because his reputation is not enhanced if he does that. Because he also said, look, I know that this is a different project. It's a different experience. We want to go with younger players. And again, every indication I have is that when he went in, he knew what he was getting into. Yep. So he's trying to manage expectations. It just comes out in a clunky way. When you say something in one country, you know it's going to get picked up again in other countries. Then it's not 1965 anymore. Yep. Conte also, as I mentioned, bemoans the lack of experience, Don. And it struck me as kind of ironic on the day that you have Salzburg, the youngest team in the history of the Champions League knockouts, going out and playing so well. What's your view on this? Because there's a school of thought. I know, I personally think we in football continuously overvalue experience.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's not important, but it's overvalued. I would have thought from Conte's perspective, he's got younger, fitter, cheaper, faster, angrier players, and players who are hungrier and will do everything he tells them to, especially if you have a micromanaging coach rather than perhaps more of a pragmatist who says, I trust your judgment on the pitch.
Yeah.
Surely it's better to have younger players, no?
There's no substitute, though, for experience. I think if you go back to his Inter Milan team that won the title, that was pretty experienced.
Oh, he's always had experienced players. What I'm asking is, I would have thought he'd be better with, obviously quality is the biggest discriminator, right?
In an ideal world, you want a bit of both. You want a bit of legs, you want a bit of youth, you want someone that's hungry, you want someone that's fearless. That all ticks the boxes of young players. But when you're playing in games where the going gets tough, young kids don't know how to deal with it. I've been there myself. I've been in a Liverpool side with 5 or 6 youngsters, Steve McManaman, Robbie Fowler, Jamie Redknapp, Steve Harkness, Rob Jones and myself. And you're trying to compete with the Chelseas, the Arsenals, the class of 92, with all their experience and their youth. They had it best where they had a mixture. So I think for Conte, I think he'd like some young players that are coming through that are dynamic and he can work with them and he sees, he's fit, he's strong, he's fearless. At the same time, you want to rely on a little bit of know-how. And that sacrifice sometimes comes with a lack of legs.
I guess. I think Salzburg, though, are showing, from a team-building concept, and obviously this is the whole Red Bull machine and stuff, that if you go and you seek these guys out, And look, I mean, they pay for their players, right? They get prospects, they get promising players, right? It's not like they go and get people off the street. You know, there's real value in that because these are players that then you can then resell, you can maintain. They tend to be more coachable. They tend to have less issues, less distractions. It's a tough one.
I'd like to see the numbers between young sides winning the big prizes and experienced sides.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, I think.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think they're going to make top 4, but I think we need to show some love to Wolves. And it's difficult for me to say because I have a major problem with the people who own the club and obviously the fact that, you know, they also co-own Gesti Foot, which is run by George Mendes. However, they're playing very good football, much better football than they were playing last year. They didn't necessarily make any major signings in the summer. I mean, they brought in Huang and Trincao, but, you know, I don't think that's what moves the needle for them.
No.
So I think I got to give a lot of props and a lot of praise to Bruno Lage, who I think he's been really, really good.
I think he's been exceptional. I think he's gone under the radar. I think at the very start of the season, or certainly when he came in, there was signs where the XG for Wolves were quite high.
Oh, sorry. They also got a new goalkeeper to replace Rui Patricio, who's gone to Roma, and they got Jose Sa from Olympiacos.
Yeah. But I
don't need to guess who Jose Sa's agent is.
I watch Wolves, and I think best defensive record in the Premier League. So you see the amount of work that he's doing. That's time on the training ground. That's time on the grass. Max Kilman, I think, is in brilliant form. And then if you're going away from home or you want to dominate the ball and you think, right, what's a decent pair in midfield? And you look at Moutinho and Neves, both technicians who can handle the ball. And then Raul Jimenez is back. I think, like you said, Trincao's played his part. You know, they lost Jota, but I think Podence's come in. This is all without Johnny. This is all without Neto as well. So you look at the work I think that the manager's doing. And I think he's believable as well. Sometimes you get a manager when they lose a game or they win a game. If they win a game, they're hyped and they're pumped. When they lose a game, it's the player's fault, nothing to do with me. I don't get that with Bruno Lage. I don't get any waffle. I think what he says is really, really honest.
What I love when this guy speaks is that when you ask him football questions, he gives you football answers. He will explain stuff tactically, even just in post games, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because as you know, managers, I mean, football's a weird game, like the whole relation with football and the media, right? So we in the media, the rights holders in the media, pay to have access to these managers after the game, who generally are only interesting if they have something that they want to say.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you know, they said like, oh, well, you know, well, we tried hard and then we tried harder later and then the game got away from us a little bit, but I thought we were good value. You know, like...
No story.
Nothing there. No, it's just boring, right?
Yeah.
This guy gives you explanations. He tells you, well, and then Nori came he was a little bit wider. He was able to deliver the ball, and Jimenez, and they reacted by making this substitution. I love that. Yeah. I love that. I like football. I like hearing football people talk about football.
Exactly.
So, yeah, he's breaking into my list of top 10 favorite Portuguese people.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.